More of the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
4:16 from the Princeton Orthopedic Associates studios on this Martin Luther King Day. Wrapping up, which was a very fun divisional weekend. Both those games on Saturday were not that great. But then on Sunday, you had two really good finishes. And you saw that Dallas-Green Bay game, which was just so exciting, and then Pittsburgh-Kansas City had the controversial finish. The man that called the Dallas-Green Bay game right here on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey through Westwood 1 was Tom McCarthy, and he's going to hop on board with us right now. T-Mac, appreciate the time. How are you?
Doing great.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. So when I was talking to you in between the break, you were telling me that was just an unbelievable atmosphere yesterday. Just describe that scene in Jerry's World yesterday.
Well, I kind of likened it, honestly, Zach, to a college game, an SEC kind of game, which is, 100,000, towels moving all over the place. It's funny, some of these stadiums that I've gone to, whether it be Tennessee, whether it be Alabama, the places, or Michigan where there's 100,000 people, you look at it and you're saying, man, it doesn't look like there's 100,000, but it sounds like it. And that's how it was yesterday at AT&T Stadium. But it looked like 100,000. Like, it just was a swarm of people. The Packers did everything they could to take them out of the game early on and had a chance to put it away a couple of different times, but the Cowboys battled back. It was a really good football game. The officiating was so-so, but the side judge made an unbelievable call. It was the call of the postseason, to be honest with you, because the line judge had called it an incomplete pass, and the side judge came up and called it a complete pass, the Jared Cook reception. They looked at it, and he was right, and it was a fantastic call.
It was an unbelievable catch, and that final few minutes of that game was just some of the best football you'll see, and the ratings did reflect that. Earlier today, I saw the rating numbers, and they're at an all-time high. Crosby gets the 56-yard field goal. Then the Cowboys get the field goal, and then you're thinking, all right, you're under a minute to go and 35 seconds left. Aaron Rodgers, it's a lot of time left for him, but you're probably going to overtime, and you get to a 3rd and 20 situation, and it's just a tremendous catch by Cook. But also the throw, Tom, was unbelievable. Every time I watch Rodgers play, I just see him make these throws, and I'm like, I've never seen anyone else do it like this.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know the MVP voting is done, and I don't know who's going to win it. I really don't. But this guy has had an amazing 8 weeks of football. It's just truly been remarkable. He throws his first interception in those 8 games yesterday. But the way, and I think that you can really appreciate him as a quarterback when you do see him in person, because at 33 years old, he moves pretty good. He does. It's remarkable. But the fact that he has so much zip on those passes while he moves, I do think that sets him aside from a lot of quarterbacks. Now, on the other side, Dak Prescott, if you ever thought he was going to break, people said, oh, he's bending. He's not going to break. This was a matchup of two quarterbacks that had very good days, I thought. It was a good football game all the way around.
And I think you're even going to see Dak get better in his career, because this is a tough situation for a rookie to be put into. Because even yesterday, when it was 21-3, it wasn't his fault early, but you just saw everyone on Twitter just saying, oh, you got to go to Tony Romo here. You got to go to Tony Romo. And that's just ridiculous. I'm like, there's a reason why you people are on Twitter, and there's coaches making these decisions.
Well, I don't think anybody I shouldn't say that. People in the stadium may have felt the same way. I know we didn't feel that way. I thought he was in total control. I actually thought that his coaching staff kind of let him down with their game plan, to be quite honest with you. I didn't think they ran the ball enough in the early part. If you think about it, Ezekiel Elliott had 44 yards on the ground on 10 carries before the half. He was averaging 4.4 yards per carry, and they still were not consistently feeding him the football. To me, that was the big issue in the first half for the Cowboys, was that they just got away from the run, on a consistent basis. It wasn't Dak. I was really impressed with him. I'm telling you, this guy, 7 quarterbacks picked ahead of him, and he's that good. They got a little lucky with it. They'll say they scouted well, but I think they got a little lucky with it. But it's a very good piece of, it's nice to be lucky every once in a while.
With Ezekiel Elliott, I think you bring up a great point, and that's what I really led the show with. I could not believe that they decided to not give him enough carries yesterday, in my opinion. Why do you think that was? Because even some of those situations late where they were second and short, third and short, and sometimes they worked, I just couldn't believe that they weren't giving the ball more there in that spot.
I don't know. I think part of it is, the Packers had 3 cornerbacks on injured reserve. They had a couple of other guys that were hurt early on. Morgan Burnett was hurt early on. So my thought was maybe they felt like they could surprise the Packers by throwing the ball more. I still think you needed to just give it to him and let him run. And just if he got stopped, then you throw it. But I was surprised. I don't know why they did it that way. I mean, everybody has their reasons. I'm not sure. Mike McCarthy told us at halftime that the Packers were going to start running the ball more in the second half, and they obviously didn't do that. And, we were saying on the air, why would you do that the way Aaron Rodgers is throwing? Although Ty Montgomery was decent enough yesterday to offset, the passing a little bit. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't run it. Long story short, I don't know why they didn't run it. I'm as surprised as anybody.
And I thought another foolish decision by Jason Garrett, as we're talking to Tom McCarthy right now on the Zach Gelb show, was right before they got that field goal, you get a first down situation and you spike it with 1:07 remaining. Why do you think they decided to spike it there? Because I didn't get that one either.
Well, I thought they took a lot of time to spike it, so I thought let's just run a play. I think that they felt like they were going to go for a score, like a touchdown, not a field goal. Honestly, that's what my thinking was with that they were going to just try to get it into the end zone. So they figured, let's settle things down, give our young quarterback an opportunity to get his pace down again, and go from there. That's the only thing I can think of from that standpoint was that's what they were trying to do.
So now in our market, and being a host here, how many years ago being in my chair, you got a lot of Giants fans and you got a lot of Eagles fans, and they're in a happy mood today because Dallas is going home. But when you look at this thing for the future, you see a Dallas team with an incredible offensive line. They have a stud wide receiver, a quarterback that looks like he's the real deal, and a running back that is going to be an all-pro running back for many years to come. The only thing Dallas really needs to fix is that defense. And Tom, as you know, I know they're going up against Rodgers, but that defense was just not good yesterday.
Well, Sean Lee took a little bit of time to get going, but I agree. The defensive line in particular. Now, they did get a couple of sacks. But in the first quarter, he was able to do whatever he wanted to do, and obviously, you can't give him more time than a normal quarterback. I mean, he's so fast with his release that they just weren't getting enough pressure on him. I don't know what it was, why it was that way, but they do have to, I think, tighten up their defensive line. Their secondary, if healthy, is fine. I think that, Sean Lee is good. I mean, he gets hurt a lot. He had a very good year, 145 tackles. I do think that's what they're going to address when it comes to the draft. They're still light years, I think, ahead of everybody except for maybe the Giants in the division, but I still think they're ahead of the Giants, even though the Giants won both games this year.
In terms of when you take a look back and get into Aaron Rodgers, and we look at great quarterbacks, and there's no doubt about it, Aaron Rodgers, we all know, is a great quarterback. And what makes, to me, a great quarterback is no matter what the situation is, no matter who's down, you find the way to deliver. And, Tom, you saw that yesterday. No Jordy Nelson. Adams goes out for parts of the game. Just how about the way that Rodgers was able to adapt and just continue to dominate that football game yesterday?
Well, I mean, again, he's just a special dude. I mean, he is. And, think about this run that he had where he was playing with a bad calf. I mean, he was really banged up, but was still playing and playing at an all-pro level. I think it's partly taking care of himself. I think it's also the fact that he is older and is more in tune with what he needs to do to be successful. He's really impressive. I mean, for so much of the Packers' time, they were Brett Favre's team, and this guy was waiting in the wings. And somebody knew what they were doing when they drafted him, and somebody knew what they were doing when they told Favre it was time to go. He's turned into a very special receiver, a very special quarterback. There's no doubt about that.
They weren't home, so no one's really complaining today if they would have lost that football game. If you would have told me they would have lost in a nail-biter before the weekend started, I definitely could have seen that coming with the way that Dallas has been playing this year. But ever since they've won that Super Bowl, this has been a team that just had heartbreak after heartbreak. To win one yesterday, I know they won the week before, but to win a game like that where maybe in years past they lose it, how much pressure does that take off Green Bay moving forward?
Well, I mean, I think that they are the hottest team right now. I mean, Atlanta's obviously scoring points at a huge rate, but they're the hottest team. So, they're sort of freewheeling at this point. I mean, everybody expects that this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I tend to think it will be too. But they're kind of playing with house money to a certain extent. They don't have a running back per se, although, like I said, Ty Montgomery was good, and he's been good. So, I mean, does it take pressure off? I don't know. I mean, I think the pressure is on the Falcons because, the Falcons are desperately trying to get to the Super Bowl, whereas, the Packers have been in the NFC Championship now 2 of the last 3 years. So, for them, this is kind of old hat. That may lend itself to some success because of that.
Tom, as we're talking to Tom McCarthy right now, who called the game yesterday for Westwood One, did a great job on the broadcast. Green Bay and Dallas, just a really fun football game yesterday in Dallas. When everyone at the end of that game, when Crosby lines up and he ends up having to make 2 kicks because of the icing of the kicker, I was watching it on TV. And for a little bit, you had no clue that the timeout was called. Just as a broadcaster, how do you handle a situation like that? Because, you got to be excited because it's a game-winning kick situation, but you never know if the timeout's going to be called. It always seems like that timeout gets called right after that ball is kicked. Clearly, it's called before, but you don't hear the whistles until after the ball goes in the air.
Well, I think there's a couple of keys from a broadcasting standpoint. I think this is why you always have to broadcast with effects in your ear because you can hear the referee blow the whistle. But you also have to anticipate. They were setting up so quickly that I wasn't sure if the Cowboys were going to get the timeout off or not. But I saw Jason Garrett walk over to the referee, so I anticipated that he was going to try to do it right before he kicked. So I did build it up, but I did know that I probably would have to pull it back down rather quickly. And that's what happened. I mean, you just try to anticipate, but I had a conversation with somebody today about effects in your ear. Like, some announcers don't like it. I love it. The more the merrier with me. I feel like I need to hear the crowd. I need to hear the effects because I need to hear the whistle, and I need to hear the chatter from the players just to kind of get into the game itself.
So in terms of what's coming up next, you have a really good divisional. You had a really good divisional weekend, and now you're going to even have a better conference championship weekend. Rodgers, Ryan in the NFC, and then Big Ben and Tom Brady in the AFC. It doesn't get much better than this, Tom. These are some really darn good quarterbacks, as you know it.
Absolutely, and I also, I'm interested to see what the Steelers defense does with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Because I thought that the Texans, showed a little vulnerability with the Patriots offense. Because their defense was so good. They just couldn't do anything offensively. So I think that has the potential to be a decent game, although Brady, somehow has these ways of just picking teams apart, and they have a way of coming up with these game plans. I think that I'll buy into what everybody else is saying, that the Atlanta-Green Bay game is going to be high scoring. I just expect that it will be because of the way these two teams have played. But every time you expect something like that, you get like a 12-9 game. But I do think it's a cool matchup for both. I really do, just because you got offense against offense, and in essence, you got the Steelers' defense, and Le'Veon Bell is the best running back in the league, and Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in the league going up against the Patriots' defense.
Let's say if you see Green Bay and New England, and we all know what Tom Brady is, and we all know what Aaron Rodgers is. I'm sure the league would love to see that one. If you had to pick a quarterback, let's say, to be in that game and to be in one of those Super Bowls, do you go Brady or do you go Rodgers?
I go Brady, and I do that only because he's won it more, and he's just remarkable at 38 years old. I mean, he is, and believe me, Aaron Rodgers is nothing to sniff about. But I go Brady just because I think he has something to prove because of the suspension, and I just think he's playing at such a high level right now. I think even a little higher for the whole year than Aaron Rodgers for the whole year.
Did you happen to see any of the ending of the Pittsburgh-Kansas City game?
I did. I was watching it with Tony Baselli. He did not think that it was a hold on Eric Winston. The rule is if you tackle a guy, it's a hold. And it was, to me, there was momentum, but he did wrap him up. So I deferred to him while we were having a conversation last night at dinner because he's about 5 inches, 6 inches taller than I am, and he's an offensive lineman. But when I look at it time and time again, by rule, if you tackle the guy, it's a hold, and that's what the officials saw was that he tackled him.
I thought that was definitely a hold. I'll agree with you instead of Tony, and I happen to really do like Tony. But the tough part there is for the officials is sometimes you see it a lot, even at the end of some of these other games. It's the officials that have to make that decision. Do you swallow the whistle or do you just call it? And to me, if it's a hold, you got to call it it's a hold. And yeah, it stinks because everyone thought it was a 2-point conversion and you're probably on your way to go into an overtime. But to me, that was a hold, Tom.
Yeah, you got to call it, Zach. I think, sometimes we get lost in this society that, people wonder about, what you're supposed to do in specific instances like that. They have a job to do, and their job is to make the calls. And to me, his job was to make the call. Whether you agree with it or not, his job was to make the call. I think we saw in the Cowboy-Packer game that they did swallow their whistle a few times, but I think that you have to call it if it's there. Just like a referee, if there's a 3 at the end and it's sort of a throw-up Hail Mary 3, but there's contact, I think you got to call that too. So I don't think there was anything wrong with him doing it. I think he had every right to call it, and I think he made the right call.
Tom McCarthy, before we let you run, I just got to ask you one quick thing about the Phillies. They're going to announce later today Michael Saunders agreed to a 1-year deal with the Phillies. Just what's your thoughts on that signing by the Phillies?
I like it. I think that they needed to get some extra power, and I think they did that. I think this is I think it's a good pickup. I really do. I think there's not much to lose with this except for $9 million, which is apparently, what he's being signed for. So I'm good with it. I think the younger guys are still going to get their chance, but I think that they needed some power, and I think this gives them a little bit of power that they were lacking. Now, he did not have a very good second half of the season, but I think, again, you're sort of anticipating that he's going to be able to help with the long ball, and I think that's a big deal.
Tom, appreciate the time. Great call yesterday. We appreciate it, my friend.
All right, thanks, Zach. See you, buddy.